Testing one, two. Okay. Good evening, good evening, good evening to those who are now joining. A very blessed and pleasant good evening to you all. This is Dr. Matthews-Bey on the Dr. Matthews-Bey Show, Voice of a Nation. Every time that I would bring out the episodes of the show with me who would normally be narrating the show, I would bring particular information that will not only edify you, but with the intention of bringing the knowledge to you. So, tonight we're going to discuss the treaty that was entered into its origination of the 1786 and 1787 into 1837. And the reason why I want to make sure that this information that I'm bringing to you, it's correct because I want to update you on what the treaty was. Now, there are three treaties, but before I continue with that information tonight, I want to say to you tonight's program is sponsored by Black Love. Black Love, it is a design that was patented by me, was created by me for the upliftment of the Dr. Matthews Bay show and the strengthening of the movement to the edification of the Aboriginal people worldwide. It is also designed to bring about truth, transparency, and an edification process on this show. So that is why when I say Black Love, it is to progress that. It is also to speak out and to stand up against oppression, racism, tyranny, terror, and death in general to a people that the world seems to want to commit genocide onto. And I'm not talking about the world, the Western system that we live by. So, quote unquote, they call us the third world system. So I want to welcome you all to those who are joining us from the live progress now on the Dr. Matthews Live Base Show, and to those who are joining us via the GMS Live Radio Guyana. Welcome to you all. So share the live as you come in, because tonight is a very edified and edification process. that I want to talk to you about. Now, as I know it, there were three treaties that was entered into, because I want you to comprehend what I'm talking about. I had a conversation with a lawyer Saturday and Sunday, and they were trying to differentiate the treaty that sits in the United States Library of Congress and the difference from a comprehension here in the the Southwest Amexium, which is Atlantis, where we now call uh, the Corporation of Guyana. The thing is that there was a treaty for the United States, and there was another treaty for a United States. So we're going to talk about the United States of Amexium, or people may say America. So this is the comprehension that I want to talk about. The United States of Amexium, or we call it America, that treaty was initiated because if you look at the map that I posted on Facebook, which is the continent of North America, to those who would have followed my show on Facebook, you'd realize that I've posted a map. Hold on. I've posted a map. Uh Hold on. I posted a map and some information pertaining to my last show that I was wanting to talk about. And I was hoping that people who would have followed the show would have been able to read the information provided. Okay, yes, I have it in front of me. It's on the Gavin Matthews show. It's on Facebook. And I've posted up there. And this map that I've posted, right? It was the featuring tongues that exactly exists on the continent they call North America, or featuring states that exactly exist. And you realize that there were some names on that map that you would be surprised that existed there, like Greece, like Edinburgh, like Madrid. If you look and see where Texas is, hold on. If you look and see where Texas is, you realize Texas has Palestine, Paris, Scotland, Sudan, Rome. If you look and see where Florida is, you realize that Florida has Egypt, Jerusalem, Sparta, and some other featuring tongues that you would, or featuring places like states that you wouldn't expect, even if you look at it where Brooklyn is, you realize Greece and Portland, and I think Sweden is bordering, and you realize that Mexico position is not where it was supposed to be presently, because the two, they, how should I put it over? Northwest and Southwest Amexium, or the continent of Amexium, which is North and South America, including the the Central America. When the treaty was entered into, it was pertaining to all of that. The treaty was entered into for the comprehension that all these states or all these tongues would have fall under a treaty of peace, truth, and friendship. You'd realize that Trinidad is also there, right? Hold on, let me make sure that I got the right. Yes, we got Trinidad, we got Cuba, we got Toronto, England. The treaty was right. We got Athens. The treaty, when was entered into, it was pertaining to the same comprehension, the same positioning of all these states. You call it United States. And in these United States had tongues with all of these names that I was calling there just now as a representation of these states. And why all of that was in there, it is because there is where civilization, as I spoke, wanting to expand themselves. Now, where Morocco, the understanding was, is that the Moors, who were who were the rulers then, the nobles of the entire kingdom of Morocco, which exceeded into North and South Amexium, right? That they had entered into this treaty with the comprehension of the full understanding, or with the comprehension, as a matter of fact, that they live up to this treaty and they respect us. And this treaty would have guided them into doing business. That's why you had all those tongues, all those names, because it was the United States. And it is a corporation of the United States. And just to make sure that I'm on the right track, look, just last week we had the fourth gathering of CEOs of the Americas. They didn't say the fourth gathering of presidents, the fourth gathering of the CEOs, corporate executive officers. That's the position. And they had it in Los Angeles. First, we need to comprehend why was there a gathering of CEOs in Los Angeles? Was it about? It it was a recap of the entire existence of themselves as corporate entities. And look, the countries that they did not invite, you think that they did not invite Cuba because Cuba rejects their policies? No. Cuba stands as an independent nation, not as a corporate entity, as an independent nation. Cuba does not exist on their principles of cooperation. That's why they didn't invite Cuba. And they didn't invite Venezuela because they realized Venezuela had made a shift out of the corporate entity of corporations. Not only not only did they make a shift, they refused to recognize them. They refused to recognize the IMF, the IDB, the WTO, World Trade Organization. The only people Cuba stand in line with was OPEC, Organization of of it's oil producing economic countries. And that's the only person, that's the only gathering Venezuela align themselves with. Nothing more else. So right now they have problems dealing with Venezuela because Venezuela does not appease the international community in that recognition as being part of a corporate entity of corporations that sits on the Americas. Because the Americas is one of the richest, both North, South, and Central America is one of the most richest fertile lands on the entire world. Africa is one of them, yes, but the Americas is another one. And they gathered themselves last week pertaining to that same comprehension of treaties that was entered into to make sure that these countries keep on following the corporate understanding and entities thereof. Yes, although Barbados was one of them, they went. But at the end of the day, it is based upon the understanding of these corporate entities with the nobles. And the nobles is the United States. Now uh, there's an alignment that you need to follow. All these corporate entities fall under the United States. And separate from them, there is a United States. You get me? To those who are listening, the United States will have include all these countries. So there's no one president of the United States. There are presidents or CEOs of the United States. And that gathering that you see there, yes, that gathering that you see there last week was the United States. I was even surprised. But they discuss the awareness and availability of people now having the knowledge, because what is happening now, the internet exploded 10 years ago, and every information pertaining to groups and ethnicity and where they came onto the internet like how it is right now. There's an explosion of information going on. That's why I can be able to sit here and explain to you what is what is happening presently. So that treaty that they signed was to involve the United States. That's how here became involved. It's not one United States, it's the United States. That's how we fall under all that umbrella of that treaty. England fell in it too because England, where England's position was, it is right there. But they make up some kind of falsy fit and tell you all kind of no, no, no. It didn't fit where you know it, because that's where you're seeing England right now on that particular map. That's where it started. What happened after then, as they begin to be nobles of that treaty, that were signatories on that treaty, when they ventured out with a universal law that stands upon that treaty. And that universal law is where they derived constitutions and where they went. But it still stands. Every particular country, every particular corporation stands under that universal law of acts, codes, conducts, and statutes. Every corporation. So It doesn't matter which position you're in, as long as your standing is with the corporations, you govern and you fall under that treaty. That treaty now extends to us because we were the ones who issued that treaty. We were the ones who designed it, the Moors. And to those who are joining Islam, to you, my Moors, my Moorish brothers and sisters. So we were the ones who designed and executed that treaty. That treaty was first discussed in the year 1200. It was discussed in the year 1200, it was discussed in the year 1343, and it had its first example in the year 1777. Year 1777, year 1778. And then moved on from there where it was first commissioned in the year 1786. 9 years actually after. And it was then, and that treaty was designed for a 50-year lease of all the Americas. 50-year lease to act and operate on the commerce, because what we did, we make sure that the lease was issued because we want to see exactly how the corporations would work on that land, so we will know the kind of royalties that we will expect from them. And when Mr. George Washington realized that they were about to fool the entire existence of the treaty, he entertained a martial law in order to have a complete discussion of that treaty. And after that, after he was killed, the entire place are still under martial law. That is why it's hard now to comprehend where we're going. They are still eligible to fulfill that treaty. That treaty is what the United States depends upon as their legitimacy. Everything, North, South, Central America, everything. It depends upon that. That is where they garner their rights from that treaty. But they haven't lived up to the rights because royalty has not been paid thus far. We now have to challenge them based upon the treaty. For those who are joining, the discussion is the United States and a United States. And it's based upon the treaty that they have entered into with Morocco, the Moors who controlled and ruled the Morocco Empire. As a matter of fact, where a United States sits, which is the 52 states that they talk about, they sit that continent, as they call it, Northwest Mexium, that is Morocco. Where we sit is the Southwest Mexium, this is Morocco. Atlantis and all those places, because that's how you get the word Atlantic Ocean. You know, they bring all these stories in a kind of a holographic form, a story form, a storytelling form, telling you about Atlantis and Atlanteans. It indeed exists, still exists on to this day. Where it's positioned, it's where Venezuela, Guyana, Suriname, and I think some part of French Guyana is. That whole entire corridor is Atlantis. But over the years, after developing and how should I put it over? Um, After rising to a position, we evolved to a different type of people and culture. We expanded. We expanded from the Ottoman to the Morocco. To those who had an understanding about the Ottoman Empire, you realize it's the same people that we're talking about. So that treaty that they have entered into, that is a treaty now until now that the United States of all the Americas depends upon. That is their existence legally, but they don't want us to know that. That is why they live by a universal code of conduct. And that code of conduct is where all the legal system is based upon. Everything, their entire existence is based upon that. If you check where Utah is, then you realize how Jerusalem came into existence. But that reasoning, they're not going to tell you. That's why when they go into different parts of the world, they name it after their kingship or tongueship, where they came from, on the Northwest Mexium. Where England is, that wasn't England. They were looking to name that was the comprehension of that particular area is where they all include as the Asian Peninsula. But it's England. And in England you find Scotland and all these places. But you check on the map where I gave to you on Facebook, you realize all them sprouted from there. As they go, they develop and expanded their empire upon wherever they went and they conquered. But the treaty still exists. Their entire existence is based upon the treaty and their acts, codes, and conducts that they implemented and tried to put into law to try to give them the rights of possession. But there's no possession because the treaty exists. Without the treaty, they don't have a possession. And their possession that they're claiming has a limitation. And they don't want that either. They want uh, 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 they want a permanent possession. It cannot work. It definitely cannot work. So in order to do that, they changed the story in which we survive on right now. They want to tell us that they brought us from Africa. But they didn't bring us from Africa. They came here and meet us. They got this big thing about this slave trade and that they're talking about. No. They came here and meet us. It is impossible for them to come here and they see nobody. It's impossible to Christopher Columbus came here and didn't see nobody. And think he tells himself that he discovered here by himself. He saw people. He saw civilization, especially in the Central Americas. He saw the swarthy type of people in all the Americas. The people of dark complexion, because that's what swarthy means. And they try to differentiate the colors as they go by. That's how come they developed the word Indian to stand in place of the word indigo, means a people of a darker complexion. So they didn't know what to call us. They didn't want to call all of us the same names. So in order to divide the people, you had to look in a different manner. You either be differentiated by the type of eyes you have, the type of hair you have, because they realized all of us had a complexion is actually the same. Some of us might be lighter, some of us might be more brown, some might be darker, but we were actually the same. As they go, they realize it's actually the same people. So it's time to divide them because it's the only way you can rule over them. And then you can set them to fight against each other. Like the Lamanites and the Nephites in Colombia, which is now known as the Arawaks and the Caribs. What we need to constantly comprehend it is the type of information that is out there, and if we do not investigate them, then we accept them to what it is. Like, for instance, most of us may tell ourselves, oh, we're black, and we're leaving it like that. But if we investigate what's the meaning of black, it is still a separation of a people. Some call themselves black, some call themselves Negroids, some call themselves niggers, some call themselves Indians, some call themselves Swati, Indonesians. It is the same thing. But in order to rule over a people or the world, you have to divide them based upon class of themselves in order to take their possession, which is the land. You see, a people confused and doesn't know where they came from and their lineage of the land, it becomes impossible for them to own it because it is their, it is the it is the European system that colonized it, gives it a name, and identifies it so you can go there and sit down and say, yes, I'm from here and this is me. But they use the same codes to gravitate your ideas. So when you think you comprehend where you're from, oh no, you don't. Your basic speech is that of the system of codes because they have taught you that. They sent you to universities, you could come back and you can tell your children the same thing. They make sure that they take you to an education process and certify you. So you can not only tell your children, you can tell an entire generation, thus erasing your history or erasing your story. That is why I like Mr. Ivan van Sertima, a Guyanese by the corporation, born here in Southwest America, a Mexican, which is now called Guyana. And he traveled the world edifying, and it's so hard to comprehend that this man went throughout the entire world. This man went to places that you can never imagine. Not only to study African history and African antiquity, but to let the world know that, hey, the West Indies is not what they talk about. These people didn't come here by slavery. These people were already here. There's too much evidence that predates slavery. There's so much evidence that predates even the inclusions of Europeans. It tells you about about Kemites and these people who sailed and came all the way and settled in these lands before the invention of Europeans coming here. But something is not being told, and one of them is the separation of continents. That is not what is being told. It is not being taught in our schools. And when I mean separation of continents, I mean when the earth, the landmass, began to separate, and you have continents that stood by themselves. They call it the age of the dinosaur, but they're really not telling you the exact fact. Some people say, well, there's a comet who came and crashed into the earth and erased the age of the dinosaurs and all these different things. But the fact is that they had a separation of landmass because everybody lived in a unison manner. So as the landmass was separated, so was its people. You call it the Great Earthquake. There are too much of books been written on it. But its people could not hide. You had too much of information gathered about us. How come suddenly these people never heard of suddenly popped up? They they found a grave uh, about a year ago in Egypt. They dug up nearly 65 people. Surprisingly, all of them. How much thousands of years they talk about? All of them were like me. They were so mummified that the texture of the hair remained. Although the skin was dissolved all them thousands of years, the texture of the hair remained. So fascinating that the Caucasians who dug them up could not believe that such a civilization existed. Not only that, the civilization that existed then has so much information that predates that our technology to be living by today. It's like joke to what they have then. It is like a joke to what they have then. Well, there's certain information that are kept secret because they don't want uh, this goes out because it might include a military understanding of I don't know what. But they don't want us to know that there are greater technology that existed then than now. Why is the big secrecy? And the question that is left to ask unto this day, why it is only the aboriginals, and why I keep saying aboriginals, because they're different sects, they're different class of people. They're different people. They may look like us, but they fit into a category because some of them does not have a pineal gland. So the question is, how is it that it's only a particular type of people has a pineal gland and some doesn't? Why? That's the question I'm trying to unravel every day. I'm digging into the history because the historical facts, because I'm trying to comprehend. There's too much greater study on it and they're trying to hide it. Speaking here, every being that has an O positive blood group, either O positive or O negative, has a pineal gland. And there is a big secret about hiding it because for me, I wanted to know, what does it do? Why are they trying to destroy and erase the history of such a people? Does it possess special energy? If awakening it, do you possess a special energy that they're afraid for you to comprehend if you find out that you have so much energy? That particular type of energy, some people may call it powers, I call it energy that can create wonders on earth. Is it that you're so much afraid of us that you don't want us to know our own history? Why is it a big cover up? Why is it a big lie? Why is it that I have to live by your system that degrades me every single day? Can't we just feel it? Why is it? Why do I have to live by your ideologies when yours is far lesser than mine? Because I'm going to tell you, none of us are born a dunce. None of us. Living beings do not born as a dunce. You're made by and designed by two things: elements and intelligences. That means that you grow, you evolve in intelligence. But they create a system preventing you from evolving from your own self. That is why we're being captors in our own bodies, in our own minds, in our own spirit. We live in a box or we live in a bubble. And that bubble is about to burst. But the thing is that are we prepared for the kind of information to evolve? Are we prepared? That's why most of us we prefer to remain in the system, enslaved to the system. Because when you look at it and you ask yourself, there are three treaties, and the treaties are designed for a United States and the United States. And when you study what is the United States, and you realize it is the corporations that sits upon all the Americas. They signed with the Moors. And that signature then, the language was Arabic. So the constitution was based upon the culture of the people, which was Arabic. They spoke Arabic. And when we hear about Arabic in this present time, we think about, oh, it's a bunch of Muslims. Oh my gosh, it's bare terror. Because of how they educated us. We become animals to them. We eat, sleep, think what they say we must do. And we become regurgitators of their system. So if you hear that, like I could remember showing a friend my proclamation. From since you see the crescent with a little star, he said, "Oh, you're Muslim." I said, "No, I'm not a Muslim. My culture is that of Muslim." There's a difference. There's a difference of Muslim and there's a difference of Muslim. Muslims are religious believers. I am not a religious believer. My culture is that of a Muslim. So that's why when I say Islam to you, my Moors, it means I, self law, am master. They took out S and L and leave I am. I am. I am. I am master. That's what they did. Everything, it's complete plagiarized. You can just sit down and imagine the culture the European gives to us in its teachings and comprehensions. It is our culture brought to you in a religious form, plagiarized and given to us because they couldn't create a system. They couldn't create a culture. The most they can do is take our culture, our system, plagiarize it, and feed it right back to us. That is why intellectually, if you reasonably enough to read between the lines, you'd comprehend the same books that they're giving to us as religious texts holds the true meaning of who we are. I'm going to show you a simple example. I'm sure that you comprehend who looking about the Book of Mormon. And when you hear about the Book of Mormon, you will have understand that, oh, these are people pertaining to Joseph Smith. Oh, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But if you read the Book of Mormon, you realize it talks about the life and the history of a people that lived in the Americas. Then if you search its religious text, then you realize it talks about the Lamanites and the Nephites and who were there. When you investigate, then you'll understand it talks about the Arawaks and the Caribs because they were the kind of tribes that were always amounting to each other. They're always down each other's throats. And then when you continue to search the text, you realize it talks about the Swarty people. It's us. Polish it off in complete niceness, give it right back to us. And when you study these texts, then you get to comprehend who they're talking about. It's like the story of Christ. The angel appeared and said, look, go ye therefore into Egypt and seek refuge. In that time and in that age, there weren't people of Caucasian complexion living in Egypt. It's completely dark people. What was then Nubia? Nubia means people of a dark complexion. Because if I was the Roman soldiers and I was trampling in Egypt looking for a Caucasian guy like myself, I would have found him very quickly because I knew that the Egyptians were a complete dark set of people. So going into Egypt to look for Christ would have been an easy thing. But he hid among his own. Information provided. We now have to sit and comprehend what is given to us. We can't just feed it to our children without comprehension. It's not understanding, it's to stand over. And in order to stand over or overstand, you have to comprehend. You have to start awakening the left side brain. We're using the right, and we're using 10% of the right. But if we awaken the other part, let us say 5%, you could imagine the information, the telepathic information that you will receive. Believe you me. So when I had that conversation with the guy the other night, and I said to him, look, I don't want you to feel away. We are the original heirs of this land. This land was given to us not only by our ancestors, but it is where we dwell for thousands and thousands of years. It belongs to us. You came here and meet us. It is no way you can be the original heirs of this land. It's all about land. I want you to comprehend right now. It's all about land and survival. And in order to do that, you need to change the history of a people. To just suddenly just wake up and just take lands. You need to change the history of a people. And they realize that it could have been done very quickly by simple dividing and ruling, colonizing. And the colonization means not only to colonize the land, but to colonize each other from ourselves, divide us into class and systems. And I even tell him, I said, look, if you study who the indigos, it will take you to some areas that you are very surprised. You might not like it because you might tell yourself you're light skinned and you have privilege. Time for all that nonsense to stop. We need to identify the truth and to create a document like we did all the time, a document of treaty, truth, peace, and friendship. When we understand, when we comprehend that, then we involve ourselves in commerce. But they want it the other way around. Look, bring commerce, then we're gonna look for truth, peace, and friendship. And even to that, they're not even honest about. Because they're not coming with truth, peace, and friendship. They're coming with acts, codes, conducts, and statutes. So there's no friendship in that. It's complete dictatorship. And those acts, codes, conducts, and statutes falls under democracy. And democracy brings about autocracy, dictatorship, capitalism. It's a shadow government that takes away your rights. So there's no truth, peace, and friendship anymore because they do not want to live up to that part of the treaty. But the treaty, they want to hold on to it. They want to hold on to the treaty. It's here. They want to hold on to it because they're still telling you that this treaty gives them permission. Okay, fine, it gives you permission. But are you honoring those permissions? No. So we got to go back to the drawing table. And that drawing table erupts life as it is. Because now they want to offer you fiat currency that has no value. The value, the money is it's gold and silver, 99.9%. Believe you me, this is indeed a powerful system. I've been deleting this guy like a million times and he's up again. You can imagine, look, I went to delete this fella. I don't know if it's a machine or what. I went to delete this fella. And I'm sure if I go into my system, I'd see him as a friend. I went and defriend him, delete him, block him, and he's still up. Hold on. I can do the on blocking again tonight. Let me see what's happening. But it just makes me know that they don't want you to gather this information. The gathering of the Moors, they don't want you to comprehend the trickery that they have you living under. Look, today they sent a document out to all the parents in the Corporation of Guyana talking about vaccinating your child between the ages of 5 to 11, asking for your permission. But do you know, under the laws, the acts, codes, conducts, and statutes, they have an authority there to govern over your child. Yes, to take away the permission from you, but they're just not exercising it. Now they're asking you to sign to it. Under that, under those codes, gives them permission over your child. Believe you me. Hold on. I think I gotta set this thing right. Did I? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I didn't set this thing right. Okay. I think I gotta work on setting this thing right. I have to stop the radio. I was just realizing I wasn't broadcasting on the radio. I don't know why, but I gotta set it back when I finish. Yes, but under these systems that we live by, it's an enslaved camp. It's to gather. It is to gather the flock of the helpless, the powerless, the subjects, the slaves, and to continue to gathering you. That's how they gain their money. That's how they make business, by a slave mentality of enslaving their subjects. The corporation cannot work without you, the individuals. That's why when you strike, it becomes a problem for them, because they know if you strike, you can't work, then you can't eat the things that they produce. Then medication can't. You get my point. So they cannot continue to make the monies that they're accustomed to. The fake fiat dollar, the things that has no sense. They're trying to make it sense. That's why it becomes a bubble. The financial market and the stability of the financial economy of today, it's fake. But the only reason why it's a reality is because you work for it. You get up and you go every morning and you work for it. But then you say, but you enjoying the fullness of life because you have a house, you have a car, you have all these things. But look and see what it's doing to you. Look and see. Suddenly, the age range of survival moved from 80 to 70, then now it's to 50. So now it's impossible for you to live beyond 55 because you 80% of the world's population die at that particular time. Because every single decade you continue to deteriorate in life. It has been taken from you because of the foods that you eat, which is poisonous. And you see, the thing is that the body cannot continue to create antibodies to fight off this system. So once antibodies cannot be created from within you, spiritually you become dead. And they know that. That is why they consider you as a human being, two-thirds of a living soul. That means that you're not control of who you are because you're in a system that calls you a human. You're in a system that identifies you pertaining to class. You're in a system that you work so hard for the fiat currency. You're in a system that they control your lifetime and your lifespan by giving you a date of entry and an expiry date because they know this. You're expected to expire at this particular time because of the rate in which you're going. Do you comprehend? Look at it. Look at it. We're not supposed supposed to be carnivorous people. We're never supposed to be eating meat. Our body consumes more solid on a daily basis than liquid. And if we're drinking liquid, it has so much sugar that when it is digested fully in your body, that sugar becomes a rock. That's why you call it kidney stones. Because your kidneys are going to collecting it, right? And it's going to be formed up into your kidney and it becomes a hard rock. And when your kidney fails, everything fails. But what they're not telling you, the main important organ inside of you is what you call a pancreas. When that collapses, everything goes with it, even to the pineal gland, because it was never woken, it never worked. So they're not going to want you to eat the things that are going to arise the pineal gland, is that is going to arise your spirituality, is that is going to arise your visions and your level of edification. They're not going to want you to participate in the things that is going to arise that part of you, because there and then you'll get to know that the life you're living, it's a complete fake, it's a falsified. When I knew that the things that I was kicking off for, especially the democracy thing of life, I'm trying to comprehend. Hold on, you're kicking down the PvP pertaining to democracy, but then politics in general is based upon democracy. Because I had to look up to the word etymology of politics, and believe you me, it says a group of people or persons putting together their ideologies or ideas to be sold to those, like a community or a township, in full representation of their ideas and their ideologies. I'm like, so I can come to you and lie to you, and then you vote for me. When you vote for me, I initiated the lie. Then I'm like, okay, I now see where this is going. That is why, and I was looking at Trump. That is why Donald Trump acted the way he acted. He told the people, he went out there, the people knew that he was lying. They knew that he was lying. But he did it in such a fantastic way that he was able to persuade them with his lies. That's his ideologies. That's politics. That's a democracy. So then I realized it doesn't depend upon party or party affiliation. It is the individual. Parties were only created to differentiate themselves from each other, but they're doing the same thing. So I said, politics is not for me. Then when I studied the word politics, the etymology of it, poly means more. Ticks. Ticks. What are ticks? They are bloodsuckers. So how can you name yourself a politician? That means you're a bloodsucker. You're asking for more from those who cannot afford to give you because it's their life. That is why Guyanese subjects depends upon a politician to represent them because they do not know better. And not only Guyanese, same of populations around the world. But it's how they do it, how they receive it. That's the question. Some people receive their politicians in a very nice manner, some don't. Some politicians doesn't even live to meet the, to serve their term in office because somebody gets mad and say, yo, something will happen and eventually you're dead. So fast forward back to what I'm telling you now. All this that I'm talking about is enforcing the Constitution. What is the Constitution? Proclaiming your rights to be seen as a living soul and not as a human being. Proclaiming your rights to be acknowledged as an aboriginal, not as a black man or an African. Because all these are names that governs under what you call a color of law. One of the color of law, if you see a man in a uniform that you deem as a police, you get scared because you want to know if he's looking at you, if he's going to stop you, or if he's going to do something. That's one of the color of law. So, in fear of the person with the uniform, you subject yourself to him if he stops. And when he stops you, you can't say what you need to say to represent yourself. He now takes you to the police station, which you voluntarily go. And he's going to ask you questions like if he's your father, where you now coming from? Like one of them asked me a night, he said, stop the vehicle. I stop. I pull over in the corner. He asked me where am I now coming from? So I told him, I said, Daddy, I'm sorry that I didn't tell you that I'm coming home late tonight. And he got annoyed because how can a young chap like that ask a big man like me where you now coming from? He has no authority. He has to show me where does he derive the authority to ask me that question. And because we're so afraid of the law enforcement, remember the name is law enforcement police. That's what they do. They enforce the law. What is the law? Acts, codes, conducts, and statutes. And when you do not know the law, then you're being put in front of a court where the court now tells you ignorance of the law is no excuse. So if you cannot represent yourself, you're wasting the police time. The police now and the court deems you as a nuisance to society. You either pay a fine or you go to jail to becoming a nuisance. That's how the system works. That's how the system works. Sorry to say that, that's how the system works. Acts, codes, conducts, and statutes. They govern you by it. So they don't want you to think. And let me give you another comprehension how the system works on you know. Now, they know if they give you enough time, you might study your history. You might go back to try to comprehend what your foreparents and all this. So in order for you to don't do that, they create your culture. They make life so hard for you that you cannot do anything but to study about tomorrow. So in order to study about your past, you have to ask them that has the time, who controls the past and the information of the past. For you to do that off your own, oh no. That's why I now become the hunted. But I like that. Because now I turn around and hunt them. They become the prey, and I am the predator. Because I'm not afraid of them. I'm not afraid of their acts, codes, conducts, and statutes. I'm no longer a part of it. I don't have time with that anymore. I gather the information and I put it out there. I now hunt them down for justice and judgment of their actions. And they have to fulfill those actions. They have to fulfill the judgment on those actions because they don't have a choice. They create a culture and a system that at the end of the day, when you look, you cannot have time for your own self. You're either living a life that is domestically involved and then you have ups and downs with it because of the same system. The system makes it harder for you to gain the fiat currency to financially support yourself because you cannot comprehend that you can do that off your own without the help of the system. The system lends you money so you can build a house, and one of the requirements is that you have to concrete and pave the entire place, and you have to put up a structure in order to you have to money. So you can't plant anything to consume anything to give you ease from the economic strain that you're in. You have to depend upon the system to tell you that. And then we comprehend that eating, it is to for survival. But if we comprehend that no, eating is not for survival, eating is to stay healthy. Your body's prepared to go through the system of survival. They tell you to eat 3 times a day, but indeed, if you look at it, it's roughly 1 time a day. But they create these avenues to awaken you on their perspective so they can keep awake on you. Their entitlements, their knowledge, everything is because of them. They don't want you to think outside of the box. When you think outside of the box and you start living outside of the box, then like the guy on the thing here tells you, "Oh, Mr. Matthews, you're crazy." But it's good to know that I know the truth and I want to say the truth, teach the truth. If it wasn't the truth, well, we didn't have people come telling you all these kind of crazy things. I just love it because I'm now living what I'm teaching. I'm no longer a Guyanese. I'm an Aboriginal indigenous person that prefer to be seen as a Moor. I've already done that. That's why I'm talking about it now. I'm no longer a citizen of the corporate Republic of Guyana, that entity, that corporate entity. I'm no longer subject to them. I'm no longer subject to acts, codes, conducts, and statutes. But, but they are now confined to the treaty that my foreparents have signed on, that they now have to live up to the standards of the treaty. Yes. And it's a joyful experience. I want to say thank you to all those who have took the time to be a part of the show. It's always normally about an hour and a half, but uh, it's roughly after 8, and I'm going to close off. By now, I want to say thank you very much. I want to say to those who have been looking and sharing this program, continue to share. Continue to share, 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 so people can be edified. And all that I've said tonight, one thing that you have available that nobody wants to let you know, you have the internet to verify all of this. You have the internet to verify all what I've said. All you got to do is type it in, and it will take you there. It will edify you. It will give you the things that you need to know because your spirit yearns for it. You're hungry for intellectual edification so you can evolve. I want to say thank you once again. Stay safe, be careful, sanitize yourself, and wear a mask. Black love to you all. You can still call a number pertaining to that and any other information that you will need. And to those who still need the information on the Black's Laws Dictionary, editions 4 and 5 that I study from, call me. This is Dr. Matthews-Bey saying good night and Cheerios for now.